We had secured Namur, and we helped out on Roy, the combat engineers, because we wanted to take over that airfield. Mm-hmm. And when they hit our ammo dump, Ken and I, we were trapped, but we dug under a bulldozer on the Namur, and the spent shells were all around us, and the fact was that we scraped and crawled, hoping. Fortunately, the bulldozer blade was down, so that it was like being in an empty shell with you know, the small arms being ricocheted on the side, and we had to make a choice: should we run for it, because things were really exploding around us, and we knew our tanks were up a little forward. So Kennan says, well, let's run for it. And fortunately, even though there was a concussion from the things that were going off, we were able to make it, and frankly, as a miracle.
At 9:30, I crashed at sea.
Storm.
In a hell of a storm, another storm just like the one we'd come through. Oh, you know, front. Winds just blowing like heck, you know. So rather than to go in with an empty tank, I looked till I got down to where I could barely see it. And we had practiced this mentally before, that when you go in, we had a wobble pump there. Use the last bit of gas, and then you keep your nose up as you go in. Well, it worked perfectly for me, and I went in and like this. The only thing I sustained, and you can see a kind of a crease there from down the second. You see it? Yeah. And so I told Liska, throw your guns on, get rid of stuff, you know, and so they won't be flying around. So we go in, and it's downwind, because I didn't know where the wind was. It was black. It was raining like hell. So it's kind of like this sort of thing, and he was a little bit stunned. I was too, to a degree, but I had a greater cause, and that was my ass. So I jumped out and quickly went back, and behind his cockpit there was a two-man life raft, and pulled it out, and took it. Now the wings are covered with water, and so I popped it right away. No, I didn't pop right. I couldn't find the toggle. In the meantime, it went down, but we have our life jackets on. I have my 45 is here, and I forget what else it was. And of course, when I went in the water, I was so overloaded, I almost drowned.
I was sent to Romulus, Michigan. That was the 3rd ferrying group. The pursuit school was in Brownsville, Texas, and as I told you, there was one P-40. That was the only pursuit at the school. Our training was in an AT-6 from the back seat. If you've flown, you know, you fly it from the front. Mm-hmm. When you fly it from the back, you have all of that plane out there in front of you.
Yes,
For graduation, and this was our training. For graduation, we got to circle the field and land the P-40 twice. That was graduation. Mm-hmm. This old bird was, well, they cherished it. It was their only pursuit plane. I think I used my face as much as anything, you know, trying to land that first landing in the P-39. It was a very unsafe thing, as I think back, and you had to land the P-39 about 100 miles an hour, which is bringing it right on down. And all respect to you fellas, they didn't want to land at 100 miles an hour. They were coming in too slow, and we lost a lot of them. And it went quickly with all that gas.
And the last one, I went over from there to Korea.
Okay.
Yes, right, 1965. This is when I really began to stand tall. I didn't realize, but I really had a complete run, because when I went to Korea, 1965, I was assigned to a place called Incheon, Korea. One of these units, the Air Defense Command Post, I think because I was a young major then, real tight. But I had about almost a battalion-sized unit because we had Koreans working with us, quite a few. The old man would come down and he'd check on it, but I was really in command. I carried the whole works. I had the guys, and I felt real proud of myself, you see. I had a meeting like so. One of the Korean officers said, well, let's see what the American had to say about this particular item, thing we were talking about. And he got quiet like, yeah. And he looked right at me, you see. And it didn't dawn on me for a moment. And suddenly he said, look, the guy called you an American. He didn't say Negro, Afro-American, or, colored something. He said American with all the privileges and responsibility that go to be an American. Then he kept saying, well, in your country, you do this, and my country, I do this. And then I was American, and I had a country, you see. Nobody had ever told me this was my country as such. When the president, somebody come up and make a speech, America wants us, he's not talking about you, he's talking about the other people. But I was American, and I felt American. He treated me as such. Not once did he say, well, there's a Negro officer, or the colored officer, or the minority officer, or what, American officer, what I was, commanding a unit of Americans. But it did. I was able to walk tall, you see. And I said, this is where I was. So then I tell the newspaper and everything else, I'm an American, just like now. When census come around, I'm an American of African heritage.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But I'm an American first, of African heritage second, just like President Bush is an American of European or Scottish heritage. Sanchez, general in Iraq, Judge Sanchez, I read about him. He's an American of Hispanic, but he's American, and he did something, you see. So from then on, I would walk in the sunlight now, you see.
In January of '45, we left to go to Iwo Jima. Now, here again, our training was very good. Now, Iwo Jima looked like it would be a pushover. Casualties were extremely heavy, with Mount Suribachi on one end and the high ground on another, enfilade fire. It just killed many, many, many Marines. We were supposed to land that first day, but we could not get ashore. There wasn't any room on the beaches. If we got ashore with those 155 guns, which were heavy, no way we could have gotten them up those rises in the sand there. So we did not get to land until the next day. Then we had to have tractors from CBs to get us up those terraces. But that beach was untenable for a long, long time. We did manage to get ashore and did manage to get our guns in position to start firing, but we were the underdog at that time. That was probably as tough as any we ever had, that landing right there. But we pulled it off.
We all had Vietnamese names. They found it difficult, I guess, to call us, by our names. And also, when they do that, if another prisoner heard it, they said Crow, well, they know Crow's there, Cow, that could be anybody, And then they laid me on my side in a fetal position, and one of them got up holding on the wall so he wouldn't fall off, stood on my shoulder that's not on the floor but pointing up, and he'd jump up and down on it, and every time he'd get me down, the other guy would cinch it up tighter, and then they rolled me over and put about a 10-foot iron rod, about that big in diameter, through leg irons, to keep me from moving around. I was immobilized then. And just sit back and let nature take its course. You know, how dumb can you be, or naive? You know, he brought me up and they stood back like, you know, that's it. Well, this is it? No problem. You know, I'm thinking to myself. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know whether it was an hour or 2 hours or 2 days before I decided that I'm just in agony, and about that time I had renounced God or sold my wife down the river.